All right.
Welcome, everyone, to our virtual spotlight on environmental science. It's a brand new degree offering here at Missouri S&T. And to talk with you about it, we have Dr. Robin Verbal of the Biological Sciences Department. Dr. Verbal.
Hi, thank you all for being here this evening. Yeah, this is a absolutely brand new degree, and I'm really excited about it. So this degree will officially launch in fall of 2022. We've got some students on campus, about 8 already, that are ready to declare the major, but our entering class, our freshman class, will be in the fall. So if you are interested, you can be part of the inaugural group. This evening, I want to go through what the degree is about, what you can do with the degree, a little bit about environmental science, kind of give you some information on how environmental science, environmental engineering are different if you're kind of considering both, and leave plenty of time at the end for questions. A little bit about my background. I came to Missouri S&T in 2018. I was at Texas Tech before this. My research is fire ecology and wildland fire. So a really robust environmental background. I also do some insect ecology, and all my graduate work was actually in the Ozarks. So this is a really cool environment to be working in. In addition to being an associate professor in biology and the director for this environmental science degree program, I also run the university's field station, which I'll touch on in here when I'm telling you about some of our really cool and unique resources. So when you think about environmental science, it's probably a bunch of kind of keywords or buzzwords that come to mind. You might be thinking about sustainability or natural resources or ecology or biodiversity, climate change. Some of you might be thinking more about energy or the economy. There's lots of ways you can approach environmental science. And because there are all these different ways you can approach it, it is in itself a really interdisciplinary science and a really interdisciplinary concept. So that's something we built into our understanding of it in our degree program. So environmental science is this program that integrates physical sciences like geology and oceanography and earth science with the biological sciences and ecology, and then all of those with the human sciences, the sociology, the philosophy, the economics, to find solutions to our really current environmental problems. So I've got this little Venn diagram down here. The big blue circle reminds me that all of our environmental problems are in the context of our larger world. So you can't take these and you can't isolate them and put them in a lab. You have to consider them in the context of humans and human development. If you see a cat walk by, I apologize in advance. My cat has decided this is the most interesting thing in the house right now. So we have a really cool environmental engineering program on campus too. And students a lot of times come in and those might be the two degrees they're really considering the difference between. So I just want to throw this Venn diagram up here, another one that we made recently, to give you an idea of what environmental science is and how it's different than environmental engineering. So we put all these attributes working with some environmental engineers together. Environmental science differs from environmental engineering in that environmental scientists tend to be the ones that are gathering the data and doing the investigative work on these environmental problems, whereas environmental engineers tend to be the ones that are creating the technology to solve the environmental problems. They work hand in hand because you need both ends when you're working in big environmental scale issues. But one's the kind of problem solver and then one's the builder and the constructor. So it's kind of environmental science in a nutshell, but specifically about our degree. So our degree is 120 hours, which is a very normal number of hours. It takes 4 years and can be completed in 4 years very easily with that number of hours. We're really proud of the fact that it's an interdisciplinary degree, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on another slide. For the degree, all the students that come in take a set of common core courses that are spread throughout all the departments that are involved in the degree, and then each student tailors their elective courses to their individual interests. So because environmental scientists span so many different areas, A student can be really interested in geological science or biological science, and we want a student to be able to focus into that area during their degree. The two things that I think really set us apart are our experiential learning focus and our capstone project. So both of these means that you're getting a lot of hands-on experience during this degree. Our capstone project is during your senior class. It's a 3-hour class you take your last semester. And during this, you're going to be working with our environmental engineering senior class and moving through an actual project with an actual agency or industry that needs some sort of problem solved. So you'll be actually connecting with the scientists in the real world and getting to see how hands-on environmental science works. In addition, the experiential learning focus means you're getting out and you're doing these techniques rather than just hearing about them or reading about them in a classroom. So when I say we're actually interdisciplinary, I've got a list of the departments that are involved over here on the left. You're taking courses in biology, environmental engineering, economics, geology, geological engineering, political science, and chemistry. And every single one of these departments has an advisor built in for its department. When we designed this degree, every single one of these departments sat down and worked on this project and made sure they invested in what courses they knew these students would need. You don't see this very often. A lot of times one department makes a degree and spreads it out, but this is something that is across all 3 colleges and within all of these departments. So you'll have the opportunity to meet faculty across these areas, to find out research opportunities across these areas, and to really be engaged across all of these areas. When you show up and do your core coursework, this is the list. As you can see, it spans all of those departments. It gives you a really robust background so that you've got this good foundation of environmental science. Then from that core coursework, you get to take elective coursework. And this is a kind of sampling of some of the elective coursework. So you don't have to take all these courses. That would be way too many, but you get to pick from this list of courses the ones that really interest you. So you might have a broad list off of this that you want to keep breadth in your degree. Or you might say, I really like all these biology courses. I want to dive into those. Or I really like all these geology courses. I want to dive into that. And you work with your advisor to tailor a path that helps make your degree really unique for you. And that's pretty neat. So that's all the coursework stuff. And I'm happy to share those with you. If you're trying to take notes frantically, I have those all in nice PDF format where I can email them and you can look at them in a much quicker way. In addition to that though, a degree is not just coursework, because that would be horrible if it was just going to class and taking notes and taking tests. It's a whole robust experience. So we also have a bunch of other things on campus that make an environmental science degree really fun and cool. One of the things I think that's neat is if you're really interested in our research aspect of a degree, we have the Center for Research in Energy and in the Environment, what we call CREE. You'll hear that thrown around a lot. And researchers that work in CREE have focuses in those 2 research areas. So they might be working on environmental aerosols, or they might be working on sustainable energy solutions, or they might be like me and working on wildfire in the environment. And so when a researcher is working with that group, they're working interdisciplinarily and sometimes collaboratively. CREE has seminars, and so this is a really good place to go on their website or to go to some of their seminars or symposia and meet researchers that are working directly in our field. The 3 big projects I listed here, the Eco Village, the Grid, and then the Solar Village are all run through CREE. And so we have programs like the Opportunities for Undergraduate Research, or in the College of Arts and Sciences, something called FIRE, which is the first-year research experience. These are ways that you can have scholarship money directed to you to work on these kind of research projects and engage directly with these faculty. So really neat ways to be really involved in environmental research during your degree. We also have different design teams that I think make really good fits with our environmental students. So we have things like the Solar House, Obviously, if you're interested in that energy and the environment intersections, is a great team to get involved with. Solar House runs with our environmental engineering faculty. So there are faculty on that project that you're going to get to know anyway. The iGEM design team, these are ones that are working with genetic engineering. They're coming through in biology. Again, faculty you're going to get to know anyway. And then the one that I thought was actually the best fit for environmental scientists was our Mars rover team. So on the surface, you might be like, I don't want to design a rover. That's a lot of mechanics and mechanical engineering. Why would that be a good fit? But you have to remember, a lot of what Mars rover teams are doing are finding ways to take biological samples or considering environmental effects and astrobiology environments. So that environmental scientist can be a really good collaborator for that particular design team. That design team is also actually mentored by an astrobiologist and environmental microbiologist in the biology department. I also put the logo for our Eco Miners Club. Eco Miners is an environmental activist club on campus. It's really concerned with issues like sustainability and recycling. So another great group to get involved with. And then, of course, I have to mention our field station, what I consider our absolute best and coolest environmental resource. I'm a little biased. So the field station is pictured here. It's gorgeous. About 30 minutes from campus. And for those of you who maybe are not field station nerds like I am, field stations are physical places where you can go and take classes, do research, do outreach projects, do a whole host of different things. We run everything from a summer art and science camp for high schoolers to college classes like the insect ecology class to collaborative research with Los Alamos National Labs on oak germination at our field station. So it runs the gamut what we're doing out there. We had Boy Scouts out there fishing a few weeks ago. There's always something interesting and different going on at the field station. Like I said, 30 minutes from campus. It's right in the middle of the Mark Twain National Forest. So the Forest Service is really involved and stops by. We have facilities for cooking on site. We have restrooms, we have camping and good classroom space, a little bit of research space out there. So as an environmental student, this is somewhere you can go start a research project of your own, get involved in research projects, go take classes, run a service or an outreach project or an experiential learning thing. World's your oyster out there. It's a really, really neat place. Okay, so that's all, not all of, it's a tiny bit of the stuff you can do while you're on campus. It's the things that I think are the big highlights for environmental science students, ones that I would be most excited about. What about once you're finished? It goes by really fast, you'd be surprised. So once you finish, environmental science is a super broad degree, and that means you have a lot of career path flexibility. My guess is most of you have probably typed the words environmental scientist into Indeed or jobs.com or somewhere, and a bunch of different things pop up. So the traditional environmental scientist works either in industry for some company or consulting agency, and they maybe work in environmental management or environmental compliance. So you're working with that industry to make sure that they are doing the things that keep them in line with the regulations that are set forth by federal agencies. That is the best paid part of environmental science. That's where that number you see on the bottom, that 71,000 comes from. But there's a whole host of other things that an environmental science degree lets you do. You can work for federal and state agencies like the Forest Service or Missouri Department of Conservation, doing more traditional science or doing things like natural resource management. So more on the ground, hands-on actual management, outdoors work. You can also prepare yourself for law school. This is a great degree if you're interested in environmental law. This degree gets you ready for graduate programs if you're thinking about a master's or a PhD. And then there's lots of new opportunities in the really evolving, new kind of world of sustainability and green jobs. So this world's just changing so fast that I don't have a lot of things to put up here and say this, this, and this. But environmental science is preparing students really well for that world. I also want to point out Missouri S&T, heard about our job fair, it's pretty legendary. We have great connections with industry, and industry hires environmental scientists because every industry is generating environmental waste. So where there's an engineer, there is an environmental scientist. They are dependent on us in that way. You'll notice the other figure down there at the bottom, 8% projected job growth. That number is very conservatively estimated. There's no foreseeable end in sight when it comes to the environmental problems that we're creating as humans. Just a couple other little bits that I wanted to share with you. These are things that are a little ways down the road if you decide to come here and this is your freshman year, but just neat little bits that I think make a cool thing to put in the back of your mind. Biology, and probably several other departments at this point, but I know biology best, have created what are called grad track pathways. So as you're taking courses, you can take a few graduate courses while you're an undergraduate and accelerate yourself into a 5-year master's or 5-year master's degree, meaning you can complete your bachelor's and your master's in a total of 5 years. So in 5 years, you can have 2 degrees. For an environmental science students is awesome because that increases that specialization that I was talking about. So you can have that environmental science bachelor's and then a biology master's, or maybe a geology master's. It's a pretty cool setup there. So something cool that you could consider. Also, the way you have those elective courses built in, it's really easy to build in a minor. It's very flexible with your coursework. So another thing that you can strengthen your degree with would be a minor in sustainability or a minor in geology, or however you wanted to work with that. You'd work with your advisor to figure those kind of things out. So those are my slides. Like I said, I wanted to leave a lot of time for questions because I think that's the best way to talk about a lot of this. I'm going to leave this slide up while we talk, at least for a first maybe couple minutes. So you have my contact information. Email me for a list of courses. If you want to talk to one of our current students that are interested in environmental science, I'm happy to connect you with them. Or set up a time, come visit the field station. We'd love to show you around. Or if you just come up with a question that you think of once you finish up here and you didn't want to ask it now. All right, I'm going to stop talking and see what you guys have to say.
Any questions you have for Dr. Verbel, you are welcome to submit through the chat. We did have a few questions that were submitted in advance of the presentation, and some of them Dr. Verbel, or all of them, in fact, I think you've already addressed, but I did want to just address them. So the first one was about the anticipated job market in environmental science.
Yeah, so very positive. Like I said, about 8% growth, conservatively 8% growth over the next decade. The entry level pay is about $50,000 a year, so that 71 is a median salary, not an entry level salary. But compared to other biology degrees, this is a higher end and puts us a lot closer to some of those engineering salaries that you might see. Yeah, so good prospects, I would say, and no reason to be concerned about finding a job as an environmental scientist at all.
And then there was also a question about the course sequence, which I know you provided that slide with all the courses. I'll ask the question just a little bit differently. Thinking of a student who might want to transfer in, how easy would it be to transfer into the program and finish it out?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the neat things about this. Sequencing of these courses is not really a thing. We have a lot of students that are transferring out of different degree programs for different reasons, and you're able to really put them in about any order you want. There are a few things like the chemistry, obviously Chem 1 and then Chem 2, but most of them can be taken in whatever order you really need to. You can go back and fill in gaps if you happen to be an environmental engineering major for a couple semesters and then are moving over and don't have any of the background, say in economics. You can fill those gaps in nearer the end of your degree. So it's a really great degree for somebody who's transferring. It's actually set up really well for that exact model.
Are there any other programs that would go well with environmental science as a dual degree? I know you mentioned all those different departments that this program is going to be working with, such as environmental engineering or biology. So are there some degrees that might make it a little bit easier for a student to get out in 4 or 4.5 years?
So biology is one. Biology actually has a lot of free electives built into the degree itself. So that one facilitates environmental science really well as a double major. I actually don't have good data on geology and environmental engineering. Those are two that I would need to look up. But yeah, I'm gonna have to punt on that and say biology for sure as a double major, but we haven't mapped it out as double majors for some of the other degrees that we're working interdisciplinarily with.
So our next question, Dr. Verbal, is, can you talk more about how Missouri S&T's environmental science degree is different from those that you might find at a different school?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the UM system because I know the UM system degrees really well, and then I'll kind of talk generically. So there's 2 other environmental science degrees within the UM system. You can get an environmental science degree at UMKC, or you can get one at Mizzou. And the one at UMKC is housed in a geosciences department, and it is primarily focused on urban environmental issues. So significantly different pivot in that you're going to be working on more urban environmental science, and also from a geological perspective. You're not going to see the breadth that you see with us, especially on the economic and social science end. Mizzou's degree is in a college of agriculture, and it has some really unique features that ours doesn't. It's really significantly different. It's outreach education and meteorology are 2 things that we do not have anything to do with, but that's where you could get a great bit of that stuff. So ours sets apart in that we don't do any of that. What makes ours really cool and unique compared to everybody else is the environmental engineering and the geological engineering, the connections to engineering and industry, especially given that environmental scientists work with engineers and industry most of their career, makes us really, really competitive, especially if you're considering going into that compliance and environmental management side of things. To have that background, to know how to communicate in that realm, and to have already worked with and taken courses in engineering, our students are going to come out highly competitive.
If a student were to go to our career fair, what are some companies that they might want to make a point of going up and talking to if they're an environmental science major?
So any of them, every single industry needs an environmental scientist or an environmental compliance person. So there's going to be some companies that are there to hire an environmental engineering type, like for consulting. So that would be one group to target if you're interested specifically in that. But if you're interested in environmental compliance, anybody who's working in the power line or energy sector is going to be an excellent choice. Or anybody who's working in sustainability and energy development is also going to be an excellent choice.
Is there the opportunity in the future that this program could be offered as a minor, so that if a student were to be majoring in a different program, that they could still take environmental science, but as a minor instead of getting that bachelor's degree?
Probably, right. So we have a sustainability minor right now. It's already established on campus, and there are some certificate programs that are being discussed and possibly a minor. I'm not sure, but I would guess based on the conversations I've heard that there'll be something like that soon.
And then I know you talked about the student design teams that maybe an environmental science student would participate in, but are there any other organizations or clubs that a student might want to get involved with if they're an environmental science major? Or will there in the future maybe be a departmental specific club for those students?
Yeah, so the eco miners are definitely the #1 active group right now. I've been really impressed with them as an organization, how frequently they meet and how much of a presence they have on campus. I would love to see a student club that is environmental science focused. Something that was particularly of interest to me would be a club that was devoted to field station projects. At this point, there's not that specific club, but an ambitious student could definitely start one.
So I know the program just started, but what about departmental scholarship opportunities?
So within biology, so it is housed in biology. Within biology, there are some departmental scholarships. The best one for an environmental science student to consider would be our Troutbusters Scholarship. So Troutbusters funds an annual scholarship for biology students that are interested in environmental science. I hope to see you guys in the fall, all of you. I'm teaching the environmental science freshman seminar, and I'll also be teaching the Intro to Environmental Science course. So I'll remember your names and look for you.